I'm excited. This is our initial show for this season. I got my co-host with me. I've got some wonderful guests. Before I do that, I want to let you know that everything said today is not the views and the opinion of WCEG Radio Network. It's all my fault. If something said wrong, blame me. Don't blame nobody else. Please, please don't bother nobody but Dr. Keith. Listen, I want to introduce you to my co-hosts. They're with me today. I'm excited for them to be with me. She's all the way from Louisiana. She's the country girl. Dr. Michelle Robinson, what's happening? Why you look like that? Because I said country girl. You know you're my sister. And listen, I don't see him, but she is a CPA. She's a wonderful woman of God. If you got issues with your money, she can help you straighten it out. Let's welcome Miss Simone Clark. Hello, Miss Simone.
Hi, guys. Hi, Dr. Farmer.
You good?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for asking. This is the day that the Lord has made. I'm rejoicing. I'm glad in it. Here he is. He's Preach Woods, the one and only Dr. Bishop Ron Wood. I'm sorry, the Apostle Ron Wood. Bless you, man of God. How are you? I can't hear him. He's looking, but he can't. See, that's the difference with radio and TV. You know, you have issues that come up, and sometimes it don't work. But however, listen, I want to talk about some hot topics. I need him on. There's some stuff going on in Christendom that I want to discuss today, and this is really hot. And the hot part is that somehow, some way, a pastor and a pastor's wife got entangled in something that shouldn't have occurred. So I wanted to know, Bishop is not here to make me laugh. Have y'all heard about this on social media? Because the wife spoke out yesterday for the first time to say that it's all fluff, it's not the way it's supposed to be. Many pastors across the country are talking about it. I didn't really want to talk about it because I thought it was unfair. And the reason why I want to talk about it is I think it's unnecessary. Why, as leaders, do we allow our dirty laundry to be aired out on social media or in other places? My grandmother told me, you're supposed to take your dirty laundry, fold it up, wash it, fold it up, put it in your drawer, and not let people know your business. Why are we using social media to air out our dirty laundry? Anybody want to talk about that? My co-host, Dr. Michelle?
That's good. I would say, well, I'm going to just hop in there. I will say that maybe people feel like it's not necessarily a safe space, but maybe just a space to where you won't have any,
Internal closing. Internal opening.
I'm not sure.
Oh, what's going on? Something happening there. I don't know what that is. Okay, keep going.
Oh, that was creepy. No, I think that there, if there's no, I guess, kickback or pushback from social media, like you can post it and then close it, I guess. I'm not really sure. I'm not one to necessarily, necessarily cry on camera or really go to spread my feelings on social media platforms. So it's really hard for me to understand that. But maybe, I guess, just being able to just, write it on, a Facebook post or whatnot, and then be able to withdraw from that and not necessarily deal with it directly. I guess.
That's real messy. I think that message, here's the thing. I think my Facebook and my social media is set for inspiration only or for good news. I just launched my new book. I put that out there. Last week I was on the phone with Dr. Michelle and she said something to me that was so vital that I put it out there. And I'm just wondering, why would there's certain things ain't your business. I'm the leader. There's just certain things ain't your business that we shouldn't be telling people your business. Keep your business to yourself. And that's why I didn't like Preachers of LA, all different things, because it doesn't seem like it's something that we should be talking about. Dr. Michelle, how you feel about that? Can you hear me?
Yes. I just want to say someone got provoked. Someone provoked, either the woman provoked the husband or the husband provoked the woman. And one or the other got to the audience before the woman or the man did to make themselves look good.
But if you kept your business to yourself, you have to worry about making yourself looking good.
Right. Someone threatened someone.
And now it's national news. There's some people didn't even know that business. They didn't know what was going on. And now people are all across the country are talking about it. We had one other pastor, Bishop, he was on yesterday on social media. He blasted everybody. I'm like, okay, but I'm saying that there's some things. I know that the church is a hospital. It's a place where and not the church, but the house of prayer, because we're the church, is a place where we all have issues we come to and we look for deliverance and help. But when it comes to your personal business as a leader, that's why it ain't necessary. People don't really want to know what you're doing. All they want to know is you giving them the word of God and you keep it moving. All that personal stuff, they don't give a hill of beans about what you're doing, who you're doing, what, all that. And then I think what happens is from the pulpit, we get so engrossed in people's business that it affects what's going on. Because we ain't supposed to be in your business. We're supposed to preach to you the word of God and keep it moving. If you ask for help, you ask for help. But all the other stuff not necessary. That's just my opinion. Again, it's my opinion, and that's all I say. What you say, Dr. Woods?
You can't hear me, but I've been trying to chime in for the last 3 minutes. I want you to take yeah, you can hear me now? All right. So take a look at this perspective. And I hope I don't offend anybody, but the preachers that are in the know today, I was just looking at this yesterday, the preachers that are in the know on today are the trending preachers, are preachers who have used social media to start either conspiracies or release mess concerning themselves or allowed it to be released, and it caused people to gravitate toward them. I don't want to mention any names, but the top preachers, millennial preachers, the top preachers that reach the crowd, that watch social media, they're preachers who thrive off mess and other instances, divorce, messy divorces. One preacher, he's very famous now because he went through a very messy divorce and he used that to push his ministry. Another preacher used an argument between him and some pastors here in Chicago about whether or not churches should go to wearing jeans and the young men's with braids. And so, I mean, they thrive off this stuff. You see it, we see it from one aspect, but it's making money for these guys. They selling books, they filling up their conferences. They're getting 1,000, 2,000 viewers at one time from this type of stuff. There's no need for a lot of the guys that are trending, some of which we have great relationships with, and their talk shows and their platforms, if there was not a market for mess. And it's unfortunate that you can preach an amazing sermon and have 15 viewers, and you could preach a sermon like we saw today. I was on the live today with a good friend as a guest, and he had about 400, 500 people in the midday. And the reason why people started climbing is because we were talking about a preacher that said, "Kiss my black past," P-A-S-T. Mm-hmm. But the way he said it, when he was preaching, he said it so many times, it sounded like another word. And people just kept climbing online, wanting to hear what we had to say. They wanted him to play the video over and over. They're watching this stuff. They thrive off this stuff. Their whole reformation's being built off of stuff like this. So I mean, that's what the day is about.
Yes. Okay. Well, yeah. That's all. That's the only thing I want to talk about. I just want us to. I want us to take. The world is on Facebook, and the world looking at us saying, "I ain't gonna get in that mess. I got enough mess myself going on. So why would I get in the mess as relates to the Christendom and all that kind of stuff?"
But the world ain't saying that. The world.
I was gonna say
now watch this. You talk about preachers of LA, preachers of New York, preachers of Detroit. The world, if you look at the trending R&B singers, the athletes, they run to the guys that are on those shows. Those are their spiritual advisors. So the world is not saying, "Hey, we don't want nothing to do with the church." The church is saying more now, "We don't want nothing to do with the church." You look at Kanye West, his whole record, he had him take cursing out of the record, and he took over the gospel tracts for 3 months. So the world wants Christ. It's the church that's putting them in a bad light, bad publicity.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad that you got it. You got it. That's what I wanted you to say. Thank you so much. Listen, coming up today, I have 2 wonderful guests that are on. And then, of course, everybody's going to have some conversation. But we're going to talk a little bit about, and one of the things I want to talk about is the climate of today, and our what's going on in the world today. And then I'm going to talk about business. And as we go into this new year, the new season, how you really can put your business to where it needs to be. The woman of God said, you're going to hear from her. She said something to me, just struck real good. And I want her to address that in just a moment. But I want to start off with Dr. Hollie. We'll go away to Dallas, Texas. Dr. Hollie, a clinical psychologist. She's a pastor. She's a president of 2 colleges, one for men and one for women. And I'm honored to have her on. Dr. Hollie, the climate of America is the climate of grief, sadness, and this pandemic we got going on. What should we be telling people? How should we get people to feel better about the climate and about themselves?
Well, we want to tell them that there's hope and that there are a lot of things that we can do. First of all, we don't have to believe the report that's being given. So what we need to be doing is knowing that we have some skills, we have some ability, and that we have some help. I always like to talk about the 4 Ps that we can do. First of all, we can have a plan and we can do something exciting that brings our level back up so that we're not in gloom and doom and we're not in that mode. And then it is our perspective. Even if you've had a lot of loss, and many of us have experienced it, COVID and just other things as well, divorce or whatever it might be, there's some loss, but our perspective on it is what makes the difference. We can look at that loss and say, yeah, the person came, but I'm happy that they came because they brought me this, and this is what I learned from them, and this is what I'll pay forward and what I'll do from the result of having them in my life. And then there's a practice that we can do. We've got to practice talking about good things to ourselves. Our self-talk has to be practiced because it involves our self-care. If we don't have compassion for ourselves and don't talk good talks, we'll hear a loop 600 times a day of what's bad and what's wrong. And we don't need to be in that loop. And then we need to pray. And you all know how important it is to pray, but we need to pray about having joy. I like that old song, this joy of mine, the world didn't give it to me and the world can't take it away. And so we have to remember that the world doesn't have our joy. We own it. We control it. It is ours.
Wow.
So that's just a short little piece on that part.
Wow. That's good. I like that. The P's, perspective, plan, pray. Now, when we look at this pandemic, the news is saying this could be our way of life. This could be, we may have to live like this forever. There's countries that's always been wearing masks. How do we really get to the next level of this? And what do we do to really, besides the 4 Ps, what can we, I know hope is so important, but what can we really do? Because, like today I was out at a restaurant, went out for lunch, and it was kind of crowded, I had my mask on, but the people are like afraid to touch you. You like this. And I was like, oh, that's not good to be in. Whereas we were made to commune together. So it's all been gone now. What do we do? How do we make it better?
Well, we do have to get the mask. So that's just an unfortunate piece about it. But one of the things that we're talking about now in psychology is an area that we call the uncertainty. And so that's kind of where we are. It's like when somebody first gets a diagnosis of being HIV positive, or if they're waiting on a sentence, they have committed a crime, waiting to be sentenced. So in between those times, and that's where we are, we're in between. We're from the bad, waiting on the good to come along. So we're praying and hoping and looking for that. So when you're in that kind of in between time, you've got to start making something happen for yourself. And so making it happen, I say, throw yourself a party. If it's all by myself, I still can go to the store and throw myself a party that will excite me. It sounds like it's real simple, but it is something that will build you back up, because you can get yourself a gift. You can get yourself a cake. Shouldn't eat it all. You can get yourself some other things that you want along the way, but you can start to build yourself back up. And then most importantly, talk to people who are positive. If people have a lot of negativity and a lot of what's wrong and woe is me and the world is going to, at its end and all of that. And we may know that from end times and all of that, but I don't want to play that every day. I want somebody who's going to bring me something that's going to be uplifting. And now, I'm a person of alliterations. So let me give you my 3 M's. So my 3 M's.
I'm ready.
All right. You ought to have some movies that will bring you up. You ought to have some music that will bring you up. And then you ought to be able to have some motivational people, motivational speakers, or whatever you listen to. So either one of those, you ought to be able to start out in the morning, because I believe in tracking your mood. You ought to have a mood tracker where you look at what you're doing for 14 days. You look at it morning and evening, rate it from 1 to 5. 1 being the least unhappy, 5 being absolutely ecstatic. Rate your mood each day for 14 days. Track it, see where you are. See if I need motivating in the morning or if I need motivating in the evening. And then you pick one of those 3 modes of motivation and you get it and start using it, because you're able to track where you are. We have to track ourselves, because sometimes we're not able, everybody's not able to get to a therapist. I hope those that need it can. But when you can't, you can track it and you can make some adjustments. And those are just simple adjustments to put on some music. Anybody who knows anything about good music and what they like, if you know what you like and you know what lifts you, pull it out and get it at those moments and start that up and change the way you feel. We are in charge of ourselves and we can change it. If it's bad, it doesn't have to stay bad.
Music, movies, and motivation. Wow. So you said motivating people. So that means that there's some people that are around you in this season that are not motivating. What should you do?
Then you need to look on the internet. You know some motivational people. You can look and see who they are. You know who motivates you. You know whose voice you can hear. You know who's safe. You know who's practical. You know who's spiritual. You know who has a line that you need to be subscribing to. So you know that already about yourself. And that's who you tag into and you connect with.
Wow. Yeah. I have this last question that's popped in my mind. I'm not the only person. I mean, Dr. Michelle, you may have a question. Simone may have a question. Ron, y'all co-hosts, have a question of Dr. Hollie. If you do, go ahead and just unmute yourself and say it. I had this question. I need you to address the national church, to tell the national church that it's okay to talk about mental illness.
Oh, that's a really, really big piece. And we need to do it. And it's something that you mentioned. Oh my God, am I off?
We can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay. Something that you mentioned earlier that was very important. And it was about, as we continue to talk, I'm sorry, Bishop, I am trying hard.
That's okay. You good. We got you.
Okay. Okay. So the national church and all of us need to know, especially in the African-American community, we've been taught to keep our business private. And so in part of that, it means that those secrets, those things that cause pain, that hurt, that people have been injured by for generations, that we have kept quiet about that. We know the perpetrators, we know what they do, we know how they operate, and we have been silenced by that. So the church needs to be the voice. That's where most of our people gather. We need to be the place that's saying that we need those people treated, and we need to have them in another area, away from our children. Our children need to be able to be safe, boys and girls, because sometimes we focus on girls, and boys are perpetrated among and upon greatly as well. And so we need to absolutely talk about that in church. We need to talk about the painful things that we say, even as parents. They say the most dangerous person in the home is the mother. And that's pretty sad. And because mothers use their voice sometimes to tear down their children, to tell them who they're not, to tell them how they're like their father in a negative sense, not the positive piece of unlike my father, but the negative part of how I'm like him. And so we need to use the church and the platform and the pulpit to be able to talk about how children need to be lifted and need to be talked to about how great they are, what contribution they have. And then we need to start talking about our family heritage, who they are and the inheritance that they have and what we expect them to do. We need to talk about expectations with our children. And part of that expectation needs to be that you're going to be better than the generations before you. You have every opportunity, no reason not to be. Education is available for you. You have all kind of people and support groups and places that you can be and where you can get the mental health that you need to get you to mental health.
Wow. Dr. Michelle, you got a question? No questions? Simone?
I have a question. How about, what do you say? So like, so for instance, like you feel like, as a person, like, as me and my age and my family, we're very open to, seeking help if it's necessary and all of that stuff, and that it's there for the benefit and there should not be a stigma. But how do you say, for instance, it is a loved one and you want them to speak to someone about a situation or a scenario? Do you even feel like that's your place to do it? And if so, what would be the best way to go about just to communicate that, that there might be some areas for which you feel that they might need a little bit of assistance or help?
Yeah, one of the things that we can always say is that almost everyone will need some form of help. Every now and then, we all might need it. And so what we talk to them about is, if you have a cold, then you get some chicken noodle soup, treat yourself, and you're okay. But if you have pneumonia, then you have to see someone. You need some help with that. Mental health is the same way. If you can deal with it, if over the course of 2 to 6 weeks, if everything is working okay, then fine, you're treating it, you're dealing with it. But at the end of the 6 weeks, if you still see that you're not your best, then it's time to get someone to come in and to help with that. And that there is nothing wrong with it. And everything, is confidential, so you can go in and talk to them, and you're just wanting to give them and allow them to have their best. And we need to do interventions. That's one of the things that we lack a lot of. We'll see someone.
Well, because sometimes it's hard to deal with conflict. Sometimes we're, not risk averse, but conflict averse to a situation. And so I think it's kind of,
You're right. But sometimes we have to be up for the fight. Sometimes we just have to be up for it. And that's just what happens. If we're not, then they're going to be out there and they're going to be subject to the world. And the world isn't as kind as you are. You love them. True. The world may not. And so what you're doing is you're doing it within some boundaries. Of course, you don't want to be offensive or abrasive or anything like that, but you do want to lovingly be able to tell them that it's time and ask them to watch their behavior and see what they see. And
wow.
Get them to agree with you.
Wow. Dr. Hollie, how do people connect with you?
They can connect with me with, I am Complicated Doctor.
Really?
I'm starting a television show on WPS here in Dallas. And thank you. And it's complicatedDoctor@gmail.com. So that's my email. And if you want to email me, then we're building all the rest of it up and getting the rest of it going. We're talking about complicated relationships, complicated jobs, complicated people, all of those kinds of things, because life sometimes is complicated.
Thank you, Dr. Hollie. I love your spirit. I tell you, y'all need to connect with her, this woman of God. I love it because when I speak to her via phone or something or through text, she always gives me a word to watch out for this, watch out for this, watch this. And I love you for that. And thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time. We'll be back.
Okay.
I'm coming to your show. When you kick off, let me know.
I will. Absolutely will do it. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Great to see you. I just want to hear the business piece. Can I stay on here?
Yes.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes.
I hear you.
Just mute right on. Okay, so
Okay.
Anybody, Dr. Michelle, you got something to say? Dr. Ron, Simone, anybody?
I wanted to piggyback off of some of the things she had to say, when it comes to those critical conversations. A lot of times from the aspect of the church, one of the most critical conversations is the lack of training from the pulpit perspective. And so you cannot really deal with trauma, drama, and things of that nature if you have a pastor that is untrained and unvetted. He's sitting in the pulpit or she's sitting in the pulpit, and they happen to be predators themselves. So a lot of times those things get swept under the rug. So it's hard and I've dealt with families that told me they felt it difficult to come to the church because of that very nature. and situation. And then in the home, the same thing. As African-American people, we sweep things under the rug so well. We don't address issues. So I think that was very good.
Thank you. Dr. Michelle, what you saying up there? All the way to Louisiana. What you got to say? You know what I feel like I'm on this, what's that show in the squares when you would pick the right-hand corner? That's what I felt like when she was shaking her head. Listen, I want to bring this woman of God to the forefront. She's a life coach. She's a trainer. She's a multimedia host. She's a podcast host. We've had the pleasure of being on radio, TV before many years ago. She left Detroit, Michigan, and ran to LA. And I've been trying to get her to come back and do something with us, but she's with us today. And she said something to me the other day via text that just blew me out the water. I said, "Oh, I gotta have you on the show because that just inspired me." What you said. Let's welcome to the show, Miss Kim Bettie. Hello, Miss Kim.
Hello, so glad to be here, Dr. Hollie. That was like a mouthful. I just wanted to come over and talk to you,
Right, she's the one. She is the one to talk to. Now, what's this KB? The what you said earlier?
She asked me what my name was. I said Kim, but Coach KB if you're nasty, taking off the Janet Jackson kind of spin. But Coach KB is what all my clients call me. People have been calling me KB since high school, college, but now Coach.
Coach. Okay. So repeat what you said to me the other day as it relates to, you remember what it was?
I do. I said, and it's so interesting to piggyback off of a couple of things. We talked about entanglements. I got a little nervous on what you're going to say because remember Jada Pinkett's entanglement was a little bit different. So you said that because people are airing their dirty laundry out and they're just hurting, and the lack of training we've had we were talking about being outside of the four walls and misbehaving. Well, leaders act like that in the four walls, regardless of if it's corporate or the church or an organization. So when I thought about that, number one, I'm going to put a pin in that. And then I thought about what Dr. Hollie said about the importance of joy. And the bottom line is what I said to Dr. Keith was that right now, purpose-driven people like ourselves, I didn't say it this way, but many of us are a hot mess. That's how I'm going to start it, right? What I said to him in a much more eloquent way is that people are burned out and they are in need of this resuscitation and support and help so that they can fulfill their purpose. It's very much like we are wandering around in the wilderness, a hot mess. And like Dr. Hollie said, and you guys said, people aren't trained to get out. And so my advocacy right now is to help people to win the battle over burnout. And one thing I will say that might fly a little bit, might be more complicated, that might fly in the face of, and I mean it respectfully, you know what I mean? I'm not a debater, but I do want to say it's a little bit different than some of you were saying. Transparency is the thing right now. Now, I'm not talking about coming out and airing your dirty laundry and just acting a fool and canceling people on social media. But I am saying that we all just said that people feel like they have to be silenced and can't say when they're hurting. You know what I mean? So now we got people acting out on, the Real Housewives of this and the Real Pastors of that. And people are doing it on social media, but we have to be transparent and not always act like we have it all together so that we can let people know I'm burned out, I'm tired, I just got over COVID, I got the cough, and now I am struggling. And the bottom line is, Dr. Keith, is I have more people listen to me, like Apostle Wood said, when I admit I'm tired, I just went through a whole lot, or maybe I had to go get a therapist, or I had to figure these things out, and not everything is together. Like they show the Instagram pictures. This is my house on Instagram, and then they show like the trash everywhere else, And so I believe that there's transparency that we need to do, and that is my key. When I say, Dr. Keith, to my social media followers recently, y'all, I don't have it together this year. Normally I have all my goals figured out by the fourth quarter of the year before, but this time I'm tired. Dr. Keith wanted me to do a project before, and I was like, I can't right now. I am in the midst of dealing with my own issues. I have no oxygen left for you or yours. I did.
That's right.
And so that's what I'm talking about. That was in the Twitter of the chat that I sent him.
But that's reality. So reality, then you're saying it's okay to say I'm tired in business. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But the only way you're going to get better or get more strength is to admit that you're tired. I need a refreshing. Refreshing could be 24 hours, right?
We just need to be like Caleb. We need to say, I'm tired. I've been at war. I've been wandering around for years, but the grapes are big. The promised land is full of milk and honey, and we can win this battle. So I agree with Dr. Hollie in that we can't be wimps about it. We got to be ready for the fight. However, and I'm sure you'll agree, it's okay to show your wounds and show that you too are burned out and tired. And that's when people go, oh, people didn't listen to me until I really had a problem. And then I let them know that I did. And they were like, you never really say what's going on, but I can tell you understand.
But you know what, Kim, you've unpacked, both of y'all are unpacking some amazing conversation today that's really helping a lot of people. But here's the thing. One of the things I'm gathering from what you're saying, if you add in what Dr. Karen had to say, rest is one of the proper ways to prepare for battle. Yes. Every athlete, every boxer, they go through a respite season right before the fight so that they can be their best when it's time to fight. Another thing that I want you to kind of really unpack, because there are people watching and they don't understand what burnout is. How do you know when you're starting to feel when you're starting to get there in burnout?
Absolutely. And, you said that, in other words, we're all wounded warriors. And that is the issue, is that right now, I think this is the time of healing. It's not only physiologically because we need to heal from COVID or keep our immune system up or heal mentally and things like that from all these civil unrest and the pandemic and losing your job and being afraid. And, everybody's now quitting on Twitter, talking about the great resignation. Woo, woo, I'm going to leave. And I'm like, they might not ever hire you again if you do that. You just messed up your references, but it's a way to do it. So we need to heal, and what I'm just simply saying to close that loop is it's okay to heal publicly because they're going to do it anyway. We need to teach people how to be transparent and vulnerable and not make a big old fool out yourself. Burnout, though, is very interesting, and I'll go back to the entanglement. The World Health Organization recently designated, and Dr. Hollie could probably break this down even better than me, that burnout is now a syndrome.
Yes.
Issue with it, though, is they're only really looking at it as a work stress oriented situation. I personally was burned out in life after divorce, climbing up the corporate ladder, being a single mom, doing some things. I didn't take time to heal, and that's how I ended up burned out. Tried to start a business, broke loose, didn't work because I was burned out. Well, my point is, work can cause it, life can cause it. Right now, people are going through cultural trauma of being burned out of watching the Capitol get stormed and bad news on there. And the feelings are emotional exhaustion, physical exhaustion, mental exhaustion. The real key word is when you are stressed, you feel like I can climb this mountain. I know I can. When you're burned out, you don't see the hope. You become hopeless. And it's I always say it's sort of like ladies, well, men do candles too. You know how you have a candle and that wick gets really low and you keep trying to light it and your finger is literally burning, like the wick is gone and you're burning your hand just trying to get, or we can relate to your tires are so low that it's not even a flat tire where it's going flappity, flappity, flappity. I'm talking about sparks are going now. Who's at risk? All of us. Studies have shown high performers are at risk. Helpers, those of us are giving constantly are at risk. Managers are at risk. Women are at risk. Leaders are at risk. Pastors, bishops, therapists, like all of us that are out there purpose driven. Do you know this? I'll conclude my answer to your question. I've worked in corporate America. I've worked in community. And when I was in corporate, I realized the most purpose-driven departments. I worked for an automotive company, one of the big three, and I was in the mobility unit. And those who were caring about people who had disabilities, they were the most dysfunctional and burned out because they were pouring their hearts into it so much that they were infighting. So the entangled and the arguing and the leaders, I will have a little sympathy on the hot mess, because sometimes those that are pouring their all, let me tell you this is going to blow you guys' mind. I won't say who, of course, but I was in an entanglement with someone, and he was like a talk show host, wasn't in the church community. Wasn't in the church community at all, so don't get worried. But my point was, what he shared with me was something profound, and he said, I'm always doing everything right for my business. I don't want my personal life to be all together. I need to let loose somewhere. And so we need to heal. We got to resuscitate ourselves. We got to rest, because if we don't, it will look like what you described, a hot mess, because we are secretly a hot mess instead of transparently healing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're unpacking so much here. You said emotional exhaustion, mental exhaustion. We can go spiritual exhaustion in every one of the 5 areas. Please don't leave out spiritual. Yeah. So, cause and the word you use, exhaustion, I'm a word man. So when you start saying words, I start paying attention. The definition of exhaustion is the process of establishing a conclusion by eliminating all of the arterial or all of the other alternatives. So when you get to the place where you have no other alternative, you're saying, look, I'm burnt out. You see what I'm saying? And so there are people watching that are at that place. Some of them, they're in overdrive, if I may say it that way.
That's a good word.
So how do you pull back into the oneness of self from an overdriven position when you get to burnout?
And I want to add another E word for you, because I have an assessment. It's an empirically sound tested assessment that I use, public domain. So I use it for a burnout assessment. So it's energy or exhaustion, and then it's also engagement or disengagement. So you also know you're burned out when you start to disengage. I'm isolating, I'm not communicating, I'm having friction, I'm gossiping, I'm doing all those things. But you said it. Think about it. If what you just said is I am emotionally, I'm physically, I'm mentally, I'm relationally, I'm financially, I'm spiritually, I'm vocationally. If I'm exhausted in all those areas, what people don't realize is you think, I need to rest. You said it. I need to rest. Well, I'm sorry. Most of us just can't, really, honestly. I mean, when you can pencil it in, right, Dr. Hollie? What we actually need is to add to. So I need to nurture my relationships, hang out with my girlfriends. I need to do some community service and let that fill me up. Community service, for all of us that need volunteers and people to contribute, that can give you the same physiological benefits and emotional and mental as working out. You don't get the flat abs, I always say, but it will fill you up. Your marriage is a healthy one. Love relationships can fill you up, right? Financially, get the stress off, start saving, start doing some things, and it will fill you up. So it's actually the opposite. You begin to get a whole life, and that can fill you back up. And then if your relationship falls, well, at least I got my this. If your money is funny, at least I got my this.
We got to have you come back. We really.
Because she got so much. You're saying so much for this season. And Dr. Hollie shaking her head like, yeah. Dr. Michelle, you got something to say? You sitting up there because you got a lot going on. What you got to say?
I was just taking notes with her, even concerning with the relationship she was saying and the one that she was in, some of that was emotional. We can get into our emotional, and sometimes get into our emotional, and especially when you're upset, somebody have to calm down. Because if not, it'll be one with the other, back and forth. And then, we can burn out in a relationship. Yes. But someone has to be the bigger person, someone has to sit there and be quiet, because, two people cannot argue. Somebody has to be silent. And I believe as being silent, God will speak to one and humble one. So I just don't believe in, I'm just going to use the example for me and my husband, sometimes, work at it. Like you can be at work and had a long day and you can come home, with the marriage that you're in. And sometimes we can bring in things what have happened on our job, and that can interfere with our relationship. Because, even, the kind of business that my husband had when he used to come home, I'm be like, oh, are you okay, baby? Are you okay? And he'll snap at me. I'm like, okay, well, he had a bad day, and I had to learn of that, like, okay, I had to fix that. Not only just hear him when he come home, with a long day. It really depends on what type of business that you have, because sometimes you can bring that weight home to your marriage. And it can interfere with it, even with ministry. We can deal with the church people and we can come home, the wife and the husband is arguing. We disagree with this, we disagree with that. And we get burnt out sometimes, even with ministry, even with marriages, we do. So we just have to, somebody just have to humble for things can balance.
Yeah.
Okay.
You set a mouthful. Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to say this.
I saw a hand, Doctor.
I want to get Simone. Let me just say real quick that we need skills too. A lot of times we're doing it, but the truth of the matter is, because I am a executive and a life coach, but one of the things that I mostly do is teach communication skills.
Right.
And so we can think we're doing it. Like I had someone, Dr. Hollie, I'm looking for, and most of my clients have therapists too. And I'm looking for a therapist right now for someone grieving. And one of the team members told her, well, I mean, it's good. You didn't cry. Her loved one just died. Well, she's doing really good because she didn't cry today. I'm like, maybe crying is what she needs to do. You're just giving advice or, so we're just communicating and saying things and we really aren't doing it according to any scientific way of handling it. So we have to get some skills and apply them. At least one of the 2 or 7 or 5 need to have the skills. I'm sorry, Simone.
Okay, Simone?
No, you're fine. No, I mean, even to just what you just said, just kind of more of speaking and taking into consideration that person before you just communicate whatever comes out the top of your mouth, regardless of in that instance, you don't really necessarily know how she's handling things. She might not haven't cried at all and is holding everything in, and that's totally unhealthy. So, and then so it's you just never know what side of the spectrum. And I just really, really, really sympathize with that, definitely. And just kind of making sure that even in the workplace, making sure that you're not speaking out of turn about what people are going through, making assumptions, all of those things. Also, to making sure that people have the capacity to even receive what you're trying to give to them. Some people are always got something going on, and I'm not, there's those people. And then sometimes you're not really able to take that on. Like you said earlier, when Dr. Farmer was asking you to take on a new engagement and you had to be like, you know what, I need some time to kind of make sure that I have to fill my cup all the way up so that I can have my overflow to go into everybody else. But if I'm not full, I'm not okay, and I can't be okay for you either. So I really, really enjoyed that comment, but I know we're wrapping up, so I'm going to wrap.
I want to say
Farmer,
one thing, Bishop. One thing with woman of God, Kim, I heard you said something about therapy. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, we can go to a natural therapy person, but as a counselor or a prophet, we are therapists, because a counselor only can give instructions, but a prophet only can see.
Hallelujah. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
And I will say this, in my coaching practice, I integrate faith. And Dr. Keith, I know you got to go.
Right.
I believe in integrating faith, and I believe in matching people with that faith. So that is critical, even in corporate. In corporate, my first client said, I'm not going to do this coaching unless I bring my faith. I'm like, hallelujah, let's do it. We're going to pray before the session's then, So yes, I agree.
Yeah.
You know what? I just happen to be the devil's advocate on both sides, because some stuff, it takes a professional to dig through, unpack, and help people to process. We can be prophetic all day, but even the prophet Elijah hid in the cave and dealt with depression. So as prophets, we still need to know when to hold them, when to fold them, and send people to professionals. That's one edge.
Right.
The second edge is I got to tap into something you said, Kim, today that just, I said I'm a word buff. So you said disengage. I don't know why you said it, but you messed me up when you said disengage. The word disengage is a two-edged sword. It's a military term that means either I can retreat or I can release every bullet I have in my gun toward you. When they say disengage that weapon, they mean shoot them. They say disengage as a troop, that means retreat, walk out. So we have people, back to what Bishop Farmer was saying, why is it going on? It's because people are disengaging. They're burnt out, right? So either they're going completely off or they're shutting completely down.
I like hanging out with this group because I am even learning. And I do want to say something. When I said that you look for a counselor that is with your faith, I didn't mean not educated. I mean, there's plenty of Christian counselors, et cetera. And I'm going to think about that military disengage. Ponder
that's very good. Anybody else? Dr. Hollie, you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, I just want to say absolutely great. I'm so glad I stayed on. Kim, that is phenomenal. I just absolutely loved everything that you talked about. One of the things that I do want to say is that we have to look at, when we're talking about stress and depression and anxiety and all of that, I do that clinically, but that is something that can last for months or 6 weeks or something like that. But when you talk about grief lasts a lifetime. So we don't ever ask people about getting out of grief because it is something that can go your entire life. It doesn't have a time limit on it. And so we always have to remember that's the one thing that we allow people to just stay in if that's their choice.
I might call you to get a referral for my coaching client. She needs that help.
Absolutely.
You know what, Karen, I'll say this to you, and I'll say this openly. I want the world to hear it. I lost my son 2 years ago, January 1st, 2020. And the celebration of his funeral was this past Tuesday. And we were pre-taping for our service. So I had to preach. And while I was up preaching, I closed the sermon and I remembered this is the day I preached my son's eulogy. So I had to come upstairs and sit in the office here and pull myself together. And it took several hours. Thank God I have a great team of about 7 or 8 people that sat with me as I pulled myself together. It's a lifetime thing. One of the biggest misnomers that people teach or say when people die or are dealing with grief, that earth has no sorrow, that heaven cannot heal. There's some things heaven is not going to heal. You know what I mean?
Or healing is in another way. Healing has a different definition.
Hold on a second. Hold on, Rob. You come on, Dr. Hollie. Come on now. You start this. You start this healing. What do you mean another way?
Yeah, healing has another definition. Yeah. You are healed. It doesn't mean traditionally as we are thinking about it, but you are still healed because you have an outlet and a place, and you know that all that went on, that it was a part of your future. It didn't end there. And so it is ongoing. And that's why grief has the ability to stay with you and to be ongoing. We don't have to stop it when people think we ought to stop it, because the person had a presence and you don't want to give that presence up. And so that's why we keep it real.
Wow. I still got 12 minutes, y'all. We got more time. We got to go. Kim, what else you got to say?
We got to get our financial outlook from Simone, man.
Oh, shit. I'm coming up to her.
Oh, I'm fine. We got time before the tax I was going to say the e-file window doesn't open to the 24th. So we got another segment before it really gets popping.
Okay. I wanted to kind of tie it in a bow, Apostle Woods. I love what lets me and Dr. Hollie come together. So first of all, that is a demonstration of transparency, because I couldn't come on here today without telling you where my heart was. I'm literally on the phone trying to help a client who needs a grief therapist. That's an example of a non-messy entanglement of transparency, and look how you get help, number one. Number two, I love what you said about joy, and I want to connect the dots and say there was a beautiful study by Regent University that talked about the pillars of success. I don't have them in my P's yet. I like a lot of letters too. There were 3, though, pillars for sustaining success, sustaining your goals. It's the new year for everybody trying to reach their goals and such, their dreams. And it was faith, believing in a higher power, having a higher purpose. You know, when I go out and talk corporately, I'm not just talking about Christianity. That's me. Right. They may believe different things. I say people of all faith and no faith, but believing in something bigger than yourself and your purpose in the center. Second was gratitude, an attitude of consistent gratitude, not onesie or twosie. Keep that jar, keep that journal, keep it going. And then number 3 was joy. Joy is and they all intersect, but here's the real deal, the reason I love it. There are 2 killers of joy, and I'm not going to go into the second one. The second one is unforgiveness. Me and Dr. Hollie could have a long one on that, right?
We could.
That's part of the entanglement problem. And then, however, the other, believe it or not, is burnout is the killer of joy.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't get a grip on winning the battle over burnout, and once again, it might be healable or not, but there are ways that you combat it like a fight. That's why I like that disengagement that you said.
Yeah.
If we don't, it's going to be hard to have joy. And the good news is get the whole life, put a whole thing together, get healthy in all the different areas. People often say, and here's my last point, that we can't have it all. Now I'm gonna really start some mess, because especially women will tell me we can, it's this, it's that. The reason why I named my podcast Work and Life Harmony is everybody fought me on work and life balance. You can't have it all. But when you consider that you can't have it all, here's my question. What you gonna give up? Financial health, social health, relationship. People say, I don't need a relationship. Really? People die without at least a dog.
Right.
So what are you going to give up is what I'm asking. So we must combat burnout, and we must have harmony. And yes, we can have it all in that sense. More to come, ...
Yeah, Betty. Oh my God.
Been a long time. Shouldn't have left you without a dope beat reception.
You dropped the mic like that, Kim. That's shame on you. Shame on you. How do people, you're all the way in Vegas, but you have clients all over the country. How do people
Not in Vegas. What goes in Vegas stays. I'm in California right now. Yeah. You can catch me at Coach Kim Bettie. That is my social media for pretty much everywhere, at Coach Kim Bettie. And then KimBettie.com is my website, and on there's a contact, so you can easily reach out to me, and you can subscribe to my podcast, Work and Life Harmony. I actually do live action coaching. Like I'm coaching somebody right now that went through the Great Resignation. I'm giving her career coaching and getting experts to come in and feed her career coaching. So please subscribe to my newsletter and join the podcast so that you can get some more.
I'm gonna have you come back, Kim. You know that. I'm gonna have her come on a TV show. She's a little antsy about traveling with COVID, but I'm gonna get her to come to be a part of our TV show, because I think you got some wonderful nuggets. Again, Dr. Hollie, how can people reach you?
They can reach me by complicatedDoctor@gmail.com.
ComplicatedDoctor@gmail.com. I like that.
And of course, they can reach me at Grace International Seminary, where I'm the president of the only women's seminary in the Southwest, and also chancellor for the men's seminary, Trinity International.
2 colleges, y'all. Dr. Michelle, how can people reach you?
Okay, Michelle 119@yahoo.com. Either
Michelle
67
119@yahoo.com.
Yes.
Okay. The question came up. Thank you, Dr. Michelle. Dr. Hollie, do you have online classes?
We do, absolutely. They are all now online. You know, we're everybody's Zooming now. We have to do everything online. Now we're not doing any in person, except we're doing graduation. Our commencement exercises for the winter semester is 1/22/22 at 2.
Right, because I was going to come, but I'll be in
January 22nd. So we are graduating, and of course we have associates, bachelor's, master's, and doctorates in divinity, theological studies, and pastoral counseling.
And I'm honored to be one of your recipients of honorary doctorate. I thank you so much. That was a great time in my life that you did that for me. Thank you so much. Dr. Ron, how can people reach you?
Everybody can reach me on all social media platforms at Preach Woods. That's my new thing. It's real easy. My church adapted it. They started it when I be preaching Preach Woods. So I just said, you know what? That's the best way to reach me.
Okay, I'm going to put Kim on the spot in just a minute. Simone, how do people reach you?
Everybody can reach me on my website and social media platforms at clark.cpa.llc. So that's on Instagram and on Facebook. If you want to email us, it's still clark.cpa.llc at gmail.com. The website is just clarkcpallc.com. So all of those, and you can give us a call at 404-772-7792. This is the time to get your tax organizers. It's just a document to kind of help everybody get their self in order, so that they can plan and ensure that they take advantage of this tax season, because there's a lot of additional credits and things available. So definitely reach out for your tax organizer. Again, Clark with an E. So Clark CPA LLC.
Thank you so much. Kim.
Yes.
Okay, so I thank you guys for being with me today. It's been a pleasure. You've just been the bomb. I want you to give us 3 nuggets. My former pastor, Dr. Frederick Sampson, always gave nuggets at the end of service. So we've got about 4 minutes. You can talk for 4 minutes. I just love what you've said. And I thank you for just inspiring on it to really make it come to life. This show is to educate people, to inform people, and to engage them to go out and be a better them. So I think you did that today. So in 4 minutes, can you do it in 4 minutes?
I can do it in 2.
Oh, okay.
I can stretch it. So here's the deal. It's going to tie in together the entanglements. It's going to tie in together the burnout and really being of purpose. And that is what I call a group hug, HUG. We're hurting. We are wounded. We are burned out. We are fearful. And so the hug is first to go and get the healing that you need, whatever that means. And this show helps you with things like that. The second is then to come together, then you unify. But before you're healed, if you try to unify, then it's going to be a hot mess of bad entanglements, right? And then we get into action or galvanize. If we don't do it in that order, it won't work. Not in your marriages, not in our relationships, not in your businesses, not in your church, your places of worship. Yeah.
Thank you.
Man.
Wow. Dr. Hollie, 1 minute. I'm going to touch your spot. What you got to say? I saw you shake your head.
I absolutely believe in that. And I think that is phenomenal. I think that the other thing is that we have to have some to-do pieces that we do. And so whenever we're getting ready to go forward, move forward, especially we're talking about grief and all of that, then you need some pieces. You need to get into action. You need to do something that will memorialize that person and keep that memory alive, whether it's planting a tree, whether it's a box with letters that you write and you look at later, but whatever it is, you need to bring that so that you recognize that that person existed. Do something in their name, in their memory, and keep their name going and alive. They were here for a reason, and you have the ability to keep them there.
Thank you.
Well, that's what they said. That's what we gonna do. It's been a wonderful show. I appreciate each one of you today. It's been just informative. It's been enlightening. And we just, we love all of you. Thank you. You can connect with Dr. I'm about to call you Dr. Kim. You can connect with Kim Bettie. You can connect with Dr. Hollie. These 2 great women of God. They're women of God that can strengthen your life. You want to know about finance. You want to know about how to keep your money right. That's Simone. The woman of God, Dr. Michelle, is very quiet. She's a prophetess of God, but she's our relationship person that be talking to us about relationships. Dr. Ron just talks about everything. We try to make it a unified show that you can be encouraged, that you can be enlightened, that you can be informed. And that's what it's about. That's why we come on this radio show. That's why you can watch us every Saturday at 3 p.m. on the Impact Television Network, every Tuesday on Rhema TV. And soon we'll be on another empowered station that you better watch us. We try to make things happen. Our goal, my purpose in life is to make you better. That's why I'm here. That's why God has given me this time. That's why he spares my life. That's why he blesses me, is to make you a better you, because he did it for me. If he did it for me, he can certainly do it for you. I got to get out of here, y'all. We'll see you next time on It's a New Day Today. I'm Dr. Keith.
Bye-bye.